Hi everyone! So human naman mo sa inyong duha ka activities, we will proceed with another topic. So, discuss na horon ang types, features, and elements of prose. Okay? So I have here the objectives to identify the different types of prose. Number 2, to describe the main features of prose. And number 3, to recognize the elements of prose. To start with, prose is the ordinary way we use language in speaking and writing. So it does not have rhyme or special rhythm like poetry, and it is written in sentences and paragraphs. So we use it every day in stories, essay, novels, letters, and everyday conversation. So the usual way of using a language mo na ang prose. So kanang makita na ito nga story sa textbook, manang prose, the way we talk, manang prose. So mo gamit ta og sentences and paragraph. Di ta mo gamit og lines and stanza. Katong lines and stanzas sa atong previous discussion magamit to sa poetry. So, di ta need nga na ay rhyme and na ay rhythm. Kay, again, prose, ordinary way of using the language manisidya. Nata example diri prose, normal writing. Maria walked to the market early in the morning. The streets were quiet and she enjoyed the fresh air as she carried her basket. So, kani ang example sa prose. Diba, ang gingon ganina, prose, compose sentences and paragraphs. On the other hand, poetry is composed of lines and stanzas. Mo puning nasa ubos. And then, poetry, special mo siya. Kung ang prose, normal, ang poetry, special. Kaya nga special man ang poetry, naman siya tono, na siya rhythm, na po siya rhymes. So, Maria walks at break of day, quiet streets along her way. With a basket in her hand, fresh air flows across the land. So, na ay rhyme, di ba? Nakabantay mo. So, mailhan ninyo ang kalahian, ang nasbabaw, ang prose, and then ang nasubos, poetry. Ang pagka-construct pa lamang daan niya, kaya sa babaw, mailhan man ninyo, normal ra. Mura kag normal nga nagstorya, man nagtell na si Maria hingatog market early in the morning, mura na kag kanang istorya nimo sa imong kaila. And then ang poetry kaning nasubos nasa jay rhyme. So nasa jay tono igbasa nimo, and then dili pud siya naka sentences and paragraphs kay lines and stanzas man iya. So manay kalahian sa prose and poetry. Okay, so let's proceed to the types of prose. And first one here is narrative prose. So by definition, it follows a sequence of events and includes characters, a plot, and a setting. So it seeks to entertain, to tell a story, or share experiences with the reader. So at examples, there are novels, short stories, autobiographies, and anecdotes. So then it follows a sequence of events. Nasa dyan characters. Characters, katong mga tauhan, mga bida to. So it's a story, a plot, the sequence of event, katong exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, denouement. And then ang setting. The setting kung asa nahitabo ang story. So maning narrative prose. In simple terms, ang ijahagadyong purpose is to tell a story in sentences and paragraphs. So, mag-share kag experiences, mag-tell ka og story, that is narrative. Makuha mo nato ng word nga narrate sa narrative. So, musulti ka og story. So, na example diri The Forgotten Umbrella. After school, Marco hurried out of the classroom, eager to get home before the rain started. So dark clouds were already gathering and the wind blew stronger with every step he took. Halfway down the street, he suddenly realized he had left his umbrella under his desk. He stopped and sighed, knowing he had no choice but to return. So by the time he got back, the rain had begun to fall. Yet when Marco picked up his umbrella, he laughed to himself. Forgetful as he was, the umbrella had saved him. He would have been soaked if he had not gone back for it. So, nganong narrative man siya? Because it tells a story and we also have a character who is um, Marco. So, si Marco atong character. And then, ang setting nato ani sa school or sa classroom. And then, napod sa sequence of event. So, nakalimot siya sa iyang umbrella, he went back, and then solved the problem. Kaya hinuwan man nun tato, jawan ta siya payo mabasaon ta siya, medyo kay iyang gibalik iyang umbrella. So, this is narrative. So, ginarrate ra o unsay nahitabo ni Marco. Okay, the second type of prose, kaning descriptive prose. So focuses on creating a vivid picture of a person, a place, an object, or experience through detailed sensory language. So it appeals to the reader's senses and emotions, helping them visualize or feel what the writer is describing. So descriptive passages in novels or travel books, character sketches, and nature writing. So, kaning descriptive describes in detail. So, the reader can imagine. So, imong ipa-imagine sa reader using descriptive words. Okay, para mahibaw-an na to, masabtan na to, na ay butang dere about a place. So if tahay agi mo describe place, you will tell the audience, so mag-igsuwat nimo, you will tell how does it look. So may porma sa place, how does it smell, so may baho sa place, how does it feel and sound, o sound po niya to evoke feelings from the reader. So kanang maka-create sila mental picture sa ilang head ug unsa jud ang porma sa place. If you are describing a person, you will describe his or her look, ilang kanang smell, ang voice ana nga tao, then make the readers feel they've met the character too. So sa imong description, maka-imagine sila unsa sa ka type sa pagkatao, maka-imagine sila sa ilang physical appearance. So, same when you are reading a book. So, usually, if magbasa ka libro, wala man na siya like sketch sa unsay porma ni character. So, kanang description sa writer or description sa author, may maghatag nimo og clue ug unsay porma ni character. So, maoning sa descriptive. Okay. So, nata example dire my favorite cafe. My favorite place to relax is a small cafe down the street from where I live. So, atong i-cite ang mga descriptive words gigabit ha. So, this cafe is on a small side street and as soon as you see it, you feel like going in. So, manitahay. First, a description sa iyong favorite cafe. Nga, tanaw nimo, mo palagi ni pagtanaw nimo, mura na kag kanang bitaron padungsod. So nga na ko na jam favorite cafe. So there are 3 windows on either side of the door and each window has a small window backs with brightly colored flowers. So maning makita nimo sud sa cafe. So kibali gi-describe jud ni og unsay porma sa place like physically. So there is a small wooden door that opens into the cafe, and so as soon as you go in, you can see a dozen small tables all around the room. So I always like to sit at a small table in the corner near the front windows. So from here, I can look at the artwork on the walls. So again, another description na ko na art walls on the walls sa yung favorite cafe. And the pretty green plants hanging from the ceiling. So nasa yung mga hanging plants spot. With a strong cup of coffee and a good book, I feel very happy and relaxed in my favorite place. Kung ang target ni narrative is to tell a story, kani siya i-describe para ma-imagine mo kung sa'y porma ana nga place or kung sa'y porma ana nga tao. So mo na ang kibali purpose ni descriptive prose. Describe in detail so that the reader can imagine. Okay, next, third type of prose is expository prose. So aims to inform, to explain, or provide facts about a particular topic. So it is clear and straightforward and focuses on delivering information rather than storytelling. So it wants to inform, to explain, or clarify concept to the reader without expressing the writer's personal opinions. So example, any essays or instructional texts, news articles, research paper, and reports. So, like summary niya tanan, ang expository prose, ang goal jud niya is to explain something clearly. So, hatagan kag instruction to inform you, to explain how you do something. So, mao na ang expository prose. So, we have here an example. So, instruction o kung saon pagluto ang rice. So, first step, you bring water to a boil, then we add the rice to cover the pan and reduce the heat to a simmer. Then do not remove the lid while the rice is cooking. Rice is done when all the water has been absorbed. 1 cup of uncooked rice makes 3 cups of cooked rice, then makes a 1/3 ratio. So, that is actually instruction na yun sa pag luto o rice. So, muna example sa expository prose. Okay. Proceed ta sa fourth type, persuasive prose. So, persuasive prose is designed to convince the reader to accept a particular point of view or take action. So, this type of writing wants to convince or persuade the reader of a specific opinion, a stance, or a course of action. So, examples mga opinion essays, advertisement, political speeches, and persuasive letters. Okay, so in simple terms, this type of prose aims to convince or persuade. Okay, so kada bitaw same man ang mabuhat sa ads. Na may sample ring sa persuasive kaning advertisement. Karang danihon ka nga mupalit aning ilahang product. I-persuade ka to believe nga naay point ang iyang gisulti. Persuade. So, pada, kibali agnihon ka. So, morning persuasive prose. Okay. So, maingon tahay ka nga, dapat yun mag-uniform ang mga estudyante musud sa eskwelahan. Okay. So, usan man mo pagbuhat nga ma-persuade nimo ang readers or listeners nga naminaw nimo. So, maghatag ka og positive reason nga maka-prove nga naadjay benefit ang pag-wear og uniform if musud ka sa eskwelahan. That is persuasive prose. If against pugkana nga mutuo ka nga mas okay if dili mag-uniform, then i-prove nimo, ihatag nimo ang positive reasons sa dili pagsuot og uniform. So sa may benefit makuha sa mga estudyante ana to persuade the audience sa imong point. So money sa persuasive nga prose. Okay? So we have here example of persuasive prose. 16 years old should not be allowed to get their driver's license because they are not mature enough to handle the responsibilities. So, ang point diha, kung 16 anyos pa kuno ka, dili ka pwede sugtan nga gaan og lisensya kay di pa ka mature enough para sa responsibilities ana. There are many responsibilities attached to operating a car effectively. One must keep up with car maintenance, be aware of and follow all road rules and guidelines, and drive defensively. Driving defensively requires much practice. Following rules and regulation requires much diligence and compliance, and keeping up with maintenance requires much planning and foresight. All of these responsibilities demand a high level of maturity that most 16 years old have yet to acquire. So one example of this pertains to the use of phones while driving. While most states, including North Carolina, ban texting while driving. That adds up to 4,015 teenagers that die every year because they did not adhere to the driving rules. So this tragic loss of young lives can be avoided if teenagers are not allowed to drive alone at such a young age because they are not yet mature enough to handle responsibilities. Young teens should not permitted to obtain their driver licenses. So ang writer ani nga persuasive essay ning hatag sa jug point, gi-convince niya ang reader, diba, giagna ni niya ang mubasa ani nga dili dapat sugtan ang mga kanang mga batanon like 16 years old below nga makakuha og lisensya para mag-drive o car or motorcycle kay dili pa kuno sila mature enough. So naghatag sa generic reason nga nung dili man angay to persuade the reader para na sa proof nga maagni ni niya ang mga reader nga tuuhan ijang point. Persuade or to convince. Balik ta ha, may kag narrative prose, to narrate. So mag-story, mag-tell ka story. And then may kag descriptive prose, mag-describe ka. Mag-describe ka o place or mag-describe ka o scene, mag-describe ka o person. So, ang imo diring buhaton dapat ma-imagine ni reader ang imuhang gi-describe. Okay. So, you need to show, not tell. And for expository prose, ang i-aim ni mo dire is to inform and to explain, to provide facts. Anja, may kag-persuasive, decide siya to convince the reader and to persuade the reader to believe your point. Okay. So features and elements of prose. I think you're familiar naman ani. We have setting, when and where the story takes place, kung asa nahitabo ang story, that is the setting. So we-discuss na nato actually. And then conflict, you're very familiar with conflict. We have internal and external conflict. Under internal, we have man versus himself or herself. Then for external, we have man versus nature, man versus society, and man versus man. Then we have character, central to narrative, depicting complex traits. So, kung kinsa ang naasud sa story, what are characters, mga tauhan sud sa story. And then we have plot, the sequence of events that make up a story. Kanipot, you're familiar na ani, kaya draw naman ta sa katong kang Freytag nga plot pyramid. And then we have diction, the choice of words and the style of expression an author uses in writing. So mana po din di-discuss nato. So mura na siya review kaninga part. Kaya nag-discuss pa taning diction. You remember high diction, katong low diction, katong normal nga diction. Okay, so that ends our discussion. And i-follow na lang nako ang activity for this topic. Okay? So I hope you learned something and goodbye.